So it might be nice at some point in the future if there was something in the DOM that indicated the ID of each dinosaur. But I don't necessarily want it to show up on the page, because that could be a real long, ugly number. The user doesn't care about that. That's just for us to keep track of. But it might be nice for matching it up with things in the array. Did anybody do anything like this by any chance? Somebody in the morning did. Okay. HTML5 gives us data attributes. Sometimes you really want to add an attribute to something, but there is no built-in attribute. Well, you can just make one up by putting data dash in front of it. So let's do that. You don't need to write this down. This is just an example. Let's make a little div here. Make a little div, dream a little dream. Let's give it an attribute like data dash breakfast equals what you have for breakfast this morning, Heidi. What'd you have for breakfast? Granola bar. We don't necessarily, the user doesn't necessarily need to see this, but we want to be able to find this div based on that. Okay, we'll put Heidi in here so we can check this. Okay. So using a CSS selector, you could find this div knowing nothing except the value of data breakfast. That would look like this. Div. So for a class, we use a dot. ID, we use that. If we want to search by attribute, you can use square brackets. And that would find it with a CSS rule or with query selector. So a slightly simpler case of an attribute selector. Input square bracket autofocus would find any input with the autofocus attribute. So perfectly valid HTML to just stick data breakfast in there, even though data breakfast isn't in the spec. Data attributes. So let's try to find that thing. There it is. Document.querySelector. We said we could find it with square bracket data breakfast. Actually, we don't even need to search for the value because it's the only one with that attribute at all. Quit stealing my focus calendar. There it is. So let's have a look at this div. Div dot. Ooh, dataset. Neat. What's that? Ooh, it's a thing. Looks like an object with a key of breakfast and a value of granola bar. Could it be div dot dataset dot breakfast? Sure enough. What did you have for breakfast, Deanna? Muffin. Could we set it this way too? Oops. Now what if we look at this div? Look at that, data breakfast muffin. Cool. Now we know this is a thing. Let's put it to work for us. Again, just an example. That doesn't need to be in yours. So I'm going to use this to store the ID of the dinosaur on that LI. So here's my list item. Where should I put this? If I want to add things to this list item before I put it on the page, which method should I put this in? Should I put it in add dino? Or should I put it in render list item? Where would you put it if I want to add something to the list item? Inside render list item. I like that. Because that's its responsibility. Building the list item is its responsibility. The other one adds it to the page, but building it and putting attributes on it and stuff, that's a job for render list item. So item dot dataset we said we could do. Dot ID equals what? How about dino.id? Make sense? Think it works? Refresh the page, add some dinosaurs. I've got a dinosaur called Jadensaurus. Got a dinosaur called Pranavsaurus. I've got one called Kylesaurus. Kyleceratops. And Stego Evan. So let's look at these. If I want to look at these and see if they have that, I'm going to inspect. That's an easy way to take something I see on the page and find out what it looks like. Data ID equals 4. Cool. Maybe they all have 4. Oh no, it looks like they have 1, 2, 3. Ooh, I like it. I like it. I think it worked. Very nice. This is some advanced stuff. Life-changing. Store the dino ID in a data attribute. Cool. So functionality-wise, we still have to add all those dang buttons, right? That's a lot of buttons. And that's a lot of document.createElement. I don't want to do document.createElement that way. I'm going to do it a different way. Anybody do it a different way? How'd you do it?
On the foundation, there's a tab that says group buttons. And so
Ooh.
I did inner.html and just wrote out the group button thing that I needed to.
So Foundation has a style for a button group. Makes them all kind of smashed together, all pretty like. Could do that. And she used inner HTML to do it because that's a lot easier. But we already know how to do that. And as much as repetition is good for drilling it in, we want to learn something new and exciting, don't we? So we're going to do this a different way. We're going to use a new trick.